From Connecticut's news leader, this is NBC Connecticut Today at 11.
Coming up, opening bell honors for one local company. Why the spotlight was on this Avon business. And when should a woman get her first mammogram? Expert advice as the latest research pushes the testing back 10 years. Plus, beer belly blues, what every aging man and the women in his life need to know. We're going to talk to the author and how to use some humor to get that metabolism working again. We all know the economy is tough, but it seems if people can't buy big-ticket items that they want, they're going to splurge on beer. As the economy and overall beer sales have slumped, craft beer from breweries selling fewer than 2 million barrels a year is going through a renaissance. But why?
I think it's actually relatively simple. I mean, you look at the economy, and people are saying, look, I'm not going to get that new car, maybe. I'm not going to buy the new suit. I'm not going to take the vacation I intended, to have in Europe. But I'm sure as hell going to have that.
Anheuser-Busch says sales have dropped 18% compared to last year. So if you're having a little too much of that craft beer, well, we're going to talk about that. All the things that guys think about, that expanding waistline, how is that affecting you, and what do women need to know? So joining me is Brad J. King, and you are a nutritional expert among many other things, and you've written this book, The Beer Belly Blues, What Every Aging Man and the Women in His Life Need to Know.
And they absolutely have to know.
All right. There's something that you said about men going through something similar to women, like men have a menopause.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, women took the name from us. That's why it's called menopause. We have something that's been spoken about in the medical literature since the early 1950s. There are various words for it. We can call it male menopause. We could call it viropause. We could call it andropause. I call it the beer belly blues. It's a little easier to digest, and at the same time, we have to understand when men go through this transition, by the way, this transition starts in our early 30s. We lose about 1% of our testosterone levels every year. So by about the time of retirement age as men, we're lucky if we produce maybe 50% of what we produced at the peak of our vitality and sexuality. That's when we were in our early 20s, and we had those washboard abdominal muscles. That gets filled in as we lose the hormone testosterone. And actually, a lot of research is showing that lack of testosterone is definitely associated with obesity in middle-aged men, also with type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disorders, mental problems, all sorts of things that you can imagine.
Okay, so you can't fix that, though. You can't fix losing testosterone, but you
sure
can stay. Okay, let's talk about that.
Well, you can, because we have to understand that it may be normal. It's only normal because the majority of the population experience it, but it's not a healthy phenomenon. And we have to understand that diet can control it to a certain degree, supplementation can control it, exercise can control it, rest can control it, the way our perception of our reality. When we stress out too much, we produce too much of a very powerful hormone called cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that will literally eat up a lot of the testosterone. So we do need to, relax, sit back a little more before we overreact to every single situation within our lives. And if need be, we should be able to talk to our doctors about perhaps hormone replacement therapy. There are bioidentical forms of testosterone that men can take, but that should be a last resort, because one of the things that happens with men is as we gain the belly, we also gain an enzyme that converts a lot of our testosterone into estrogen, and it's not uncommon for men of retirement age to actually have more estrogen in his body than a woman of the same age.
Let's hit a couple chapters in your book. One of them talks about the hair that sort of disappears from here and goes elsewhere.
Yes.
The effect of testosterone on that.
Well, it's not really testosterone. It's a byproduct of testosterone, which has actually been shown to be more associated with higher estrogen levels, and that's something called dihydrotestosterone. It's the same thing that's associated with prostate problems. And this is why when men are able to block some of that DHT, that's the nickname for it, the DHT, and they're able to do this through natural supplementation that I talk about in the book, sometimes hair loss actually slows down and stops.
The dreaded, as you get older and gain some weight, the man boobs.
Oh yeah, the man boobs.
You have a chapter on man boobs.
It's associated with estrogen. Once again, the more fat we carry in the abdominal area, the less testosterone we have. On average, a 40-inch waist circumference in men is associated with a 30% less testosterone production and more estrogen. Estrogen causes fat to be deposited in the breast area, thus the man boobs.
Okay, we got about 30 seconds left here. I want to get to some points. If someone's out there listening to this and saying, this sounds like me, I'm in my 40s, I'm getting larger waistline, what are a couple of easy steps they can take to do?
Number one, they've got to sleep more, and that doesn't mean sleeping for 15 hours a day. That means a good 8 hours of solid sleep. Number two, they've got to eat more protein at regular intervals throughout the day. They've got to exercise. They've got to do some form of weight-bearing or resistance exercise, because that encourages muscle tissue to be reformed, and that allows more testosterone to be replaced. And at the same time, the book goes through all of this in detail, as well as supplements, natural nutrients that actually have the science behind them.
And talk to your doctor. And ladies, encourage your husbands and boyfriends and fathers, right, to talk to your doctor.
Absolutely, because one of the things that happens is we lose energy and we lose our zest for life, and that's really everything within us. So, you know, we want to be excited about life throughout our entire life, and we need testosterone. We need our hormones to do that.
And we men are not very good about this stuff.
No, we're not. We rely on women too much, and that's why 70 to 75% of people purchasing Beer Belly Blues right now are women.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
No
yeah,
kidding.
They get sick and tired of seeing us just sit on our behinds doing nothing, and they get up and say, listen, if you're not going to do anything about it, I'm going to do something for you.
Meanwhile, they all look good and work really hard, right?
Well, absolutely, and they're much more in tune with their bodies than we are as men. I mean, we have the man code. It's not socially acceptable to talk about our problems. Women talk, and that's why they live longer. That's why they're healthier for the most part. But, you know, we really do need to become a little more proactive as opposed to reactive.
All right, well, let's keep that conversation going. Brad J. King, thanks for joining us this morning. Up next, the rainy conditions continue for another day. Bob.
Yeah, Jeff, I was just wondering, I have remote control, you know, the remote control curls.
Yeah.
Does that work? Or?